The Ukrainian offensive has been spectacularly successful so far and has left Russian forces completely off balance in the northeast and under increasing pressure in the southwest. So the Ukrainians might keep pushing from Kharkiv into the Donbass, encircling more Russian positions as they go. The Russians were defeated with their backs to the Oskil River. And if the offensive continues, it isn't obvious where the Russians will reform their front and try to halt the offensive from there. But Russia still controls almost 20% of Ukrainian territory, and neither Ukraine nor the West should get carried away by these successes. One thing we're all clear about is that President Putin won't give up, regardless of these reverses, and Russia is a big country with big resources to bring to bear over the long term. Nevertheless, the Ukrainians now control the key road between Sartove and Kreminna, and they look as if they might be trying to encircle the Russians from the north in Severodonetsk. And that gives the Russians a problem. If the Russians cannot or will not fight for Severodonetsk, then their next plausible defence line is probably some sort of major dogleg further to the east. Whatever they do, the Russians can't reinforce their positions very quickly. Somewhere they're going to have to dig in and wait for winter. You know, the Russians invaded with a force of 190,000, a totally inadequate number to conquer and then control a nation of 44 million people within the second biggest land area in Europe. And they drew that from a peacetime army of only 280,000 men and an internal security force of Rosgvardia, 400,000 men. But Russia had reserve forces of 2 million people who have served somewhere in the military over the last 5 years. And of course, they have the possibility of greatly increasing the conscription of eligible men for service among a population of 144 million. All the present angst in Russian state TV over whether the country should now mobilise to fight Ukraine in a full-scale war may actually be the Kremlin's attempt to prepare the Russian public for some real sacrifices next year. And President Putin can only justify that idea by contending that, in reality, Russia is now fighting war for its survival against the rest of Europe.